This is probably one of the rustiest ride-on mowers I've ever seen. Now it is fitted with a Briggs & Stratton engine, which is good because the parts are readily available and they're very easy to work on. The only problem is it is seized either externally or internally. Hopefully it's externally. By that I mean the coil could have rust welded to the flywheel or something similar. It's just impossible to turn over. I did check the oil and it does seem to have some oil in it. It's not brilliant, but it is actually in that safe mark. So that is the first positive sign. But as you can see, it's not good. For those of you who are interested in the history of this, unfortunately I don't know, but certainly for the past several years it has just been left in an open fronted shed, and it has been leaking on it. It's been raining, so that is probably the reason why it looks like what it does. As you can see, totally rotten through in some areas. Is it just me, or does it kind of look like that evil robot of Futurama? No prizes for guessing what this lever does. It does seem to shift very easily into all the gears, so that's good. Looking at the side here, you can see it says synchro balanced engine, electric start, 3-speed, mount field 11. First of all, let's just get this bonnet out of the way. Well, it is going to be difficult to start without a starter motor. Yeah, I didn't even notice that before. All I really want to do at the moment is just determine whether or not this engine has internally seized. Now, commonly with an engine like this, it will throw a conrod through the side of the crankcase when it does seize. There's no damage to the crankcase from what I can see, so hopefully it hasn't done, but again, they can just seize in place. They don't necessarily throw a conrod. Somewhere there will be some numbers stamped onto it which will tell us the engine model, type and code. It's commonly on the front here, but I can't see anything, so it's probably on the top. Okay, well I managed to find the model and type number, but unfortunately the code, which shows you the date, is so corroded that it's just illegible. Well, I have just found this starter motor in case we get as far as needing it. Only problem is the end cap is destroyed, so I've just ordered a new one of those. I'll need it for another project anyway, so it doesn't matter if we don't need it for this. But yeah, that's one good thing. Okay, well it looks like it probably has rust welded to the coil, which was my initial suggestion. So I'm just going to put a bit of penetrating oil on there and then try and free the flywheel. So far I'm very impressed by how easy it is to remove the bolts. Don't want to speak too soon. It actually doesn't even look too bad in here, except for the deteriorated... yeah, the foam just essentially rots over time. So that is completely rotten. But I'll get another one of those ordered, if it looks like it's going to run. Yeah, this will have just turned to mush. That's what happens to them. What I'm going to do is clean the flywheel up. I'm just going to wire brush everything here. The same for the coil. And my next step is to take a look inside the bore. So I'm going to take the spark plug out and put my camera in there. We'll take a look. Okay, so that is the spark plug, and looking at it, a bit of carbon, which you'd expect, but what I can see is quite a bit of tackiness, gummy residue, which is most likely from old fuel. That's in the threads. It was actually making it quite difficult to remove. So I would pretty much guarantee that the carburetor bowl and all the jets and everything are just full of this same gummy residue. But I'm hoping the bore and everything will be okay. To inspect the bore, I'm going to be using my endoscope camera, and I'm actually going to now swap to the camera. So everything you see from now on is recorded from that, and the audio is from my main camera. So we are now inside the bore. I don't know how well you can see this, but we do have... There might be some of the original cross hatching that you can see. It does look to be in quite good condition actually. Now it's very difficult to actually navigate around the bore with the head attached to such a small hole where the spark plug is. Because it's a very tight left hand turn. But yeah, from what I can see, it does look to be in very good condition. So I'm going to very slowly bring the piston up. You can just about see the piston at the bottom there. Hopefully it's connected to the crankshaft. There we go. So this is the top of the piston. And yes, as you can see, there is some carbon on there. Not a huge amount. But I would be quite happy starting this engine if I knew that it had good oil and a carburetor clean. The intake looks clean. Okay, let's take a look at this. So it goes without saying that the fuel line will have to be replaced. Don't think I've ever seen a fuel line so rotten. Gonna have to give it a good clean out. I'll probably also replace this tap. It's interesting, the tap looks to have been left in the off position, which might have been useful, preventing stale fuel from getting into the carburetor. Just put a bit of extra light on for you. There we go. So yeah, we're going to remove the carburetor bowl first. It's not even tight, that. I know that quite a few people like my silent videos, But at the same time, there's also some people who prefer the narrated videos. Some videos you just can't really do without talking because it's just, there's too much to say. Okay, here we go. Well, the bowl actually looks quite clean, and also there's some scratch marks in there, so it looks like somebody's been in here before, possibly even fairly recently. Hard to believe though, looking at the engine. And then we've got, yeah, this gummy residue. Just look at that. Obviously that should all be the silver colour. And it's all gummed up. Yeah, this must be the old fuel. It's gone all horrible. Okay, I'll take the emulsion tube out. I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to get this running. That is, of course, if it will... Oh. I don't think that's going to come out. Well, I'm not giving up hope yet. What I'm going to do is clean it all off. We'll put it into the ultrasonic cleaner. I'll mix in some washing up liquid, get it all soapy and clean, and then I will try it again because it may well dissolve some of the corrosion and all this gummy residue. Now I just want to point out that the idea behind this video is just to see if the engine will run with all of the original parts. Obviously I would love to rebuild this carburetor, and in the future if the engine runs I probably will. So yes, that's why I'm not changing any of the internal parts at the moment. Okay, so here we have hot water and washing up liquid, and I've just put everything in the tray. I have given it a quick wash with a bit of carburetor cleaner, but this should do quite a good job of it, hopefully. So I'm going to give it 20 minutes to begin with and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, well these have been in for 20 minutes. As you can see, still quite a bit of exterior grease and dirt. It was extremely dirty. So I'm going to give it another clean with the airline and also with some carburetor cleaner. And then I think I'll put it in again. I will just try and remove the emulsion tube once again. Hopefully this time it will remove. That's got it. Yeah, as I keep saying, this gummy residue, it seems to be essentially gluing things in place. It even glued the spark plug. Ah, nice. Yep, I am pleased I could remove that. 40 minutes later, and this is what everything looks like. Much better. It's cleaned things up quite well, but I do need to finish off with a carb cleaner just to make sure every passage is totally clean. Time to rebuild the carburetor, and the only thing which I'm changing is the bowl gasket and the float. The original float is leaking at the seam, so I'm going to have to fit a new one. Obviously, before I put the carburetor back on, I want to clean up everything here. I also need to remove the flywheel to clean that up, and also to most likely replace the points condenser. So yeah, I'm just going to blow everything off with the airline to begin with. Also, most of the grease and oil which came off the carburetor was from the valve case just here. That's very common. The gasket usually does leak. So I'm going to take all this off as well, change the gasket, and then at least we can guarantee that it's not going to leak everywhere. I will also just put the old spark plug back in just to make sure no dirt gets in through there. That is a bit cleaner. Now, for anybody who's thinking, why are you going to all these lengths of cleaning it all up and getting things ready as if it was going to run without even knowing if it will? Well, as you know, we've inspected the bore. It seems fine. I have turned the engine over by hand, and there feels to be compression. I can't test it properly because I don't have the starter motor yet, and unfortunately, because I'm buying the starter motor cap from the USA, there's about 12 days of delivery time on that. So yeah, I basically just want to get on with this. So I'm sort of taking a risk, but it's an educated risk. I think the chance of this actually running, from what I've seen, is quite high. So yeah, I'm going to continue, and next we're going to remove the flywheel and take a look at the points and condenser. That is if these screws remove. They look pretty bad. Now the trick is to get the head of the screwdriver as far into the screw as possible. It will be filled with dirt. That's one. There's usually two that remove and one that gets stuck. Almost. Because that is rusty. Okay, we'll try this one. Have to come back for it. I'm actually surprised the first one removed at all. So we've got one that's removed, one which moved but won't go any further, and one which is completely stuck. Brilliant, although not unexpected. Luckily I have a solution. Okay, there's another one, and the last one, the head has actually broken in half. There we go. I think, really, considering the condition of this machine, I was quite lucky there. Just cleaning the threads before I use the puller. Should be enough, don't want to go all the way through. Now for the part that always makes me jump. Right, so that was a bad one. Probably one of the most stuck flywheels I've ever removed. And there we have the alternator and the points and condense cover. So obviously I'll clean the alternator up and everything, but I'm not going to remove it. There's just no need to. It looks to be in good condition, just very dirty. What I'm interested in is under the cover. You can see the rust on the crankshaft. That's why the flywheel was sticking. It really was the worst I've ever removed. So just a quick inspection, you can see we've got oil in there, which is unusual. Also it is the old style points condense system from Briggs & Stratton. Amazingly, except for the oil, it looks quite clean, and I've probably just dropped a load of dust in there. I was just doing a test on the coil and I can't seem to get any kind of reading. So it likely means that this coil is bad. I'm just wondering if I could possibly fit a new coil, electronic ignition, and just do away with the point system. It would be much easier. I didn't want to fit new parts to this because obviously it's just a very rusty old mower, but if the coil doesn't work, the engine will not run. So I'm going to try and find either a good used one or a new electronic ignition. Kind of annoying really, because I did test the condenser and that was fine. So yeah, just the coil. Right, so I managed to find a kit, a conversion kit. It's a new coil, and you can remove the points and condenser. This is an aftermarket one. I didn't really want to spend loads of money on this just in case it does have another problem. And the genuine ones are about £55. This was £24.99. So that is the new coil, and you also get a little plug, a new keyway and a wire. As you'll possibly know, the ground wire fits onto that terminal just there so that you can switch the engine off. The plug is to go where the points plunger is. That comes out. The thing is, if you take that out and don't bung it up, oil will leak out of here. And the new keyway, obviously, is just a replacement keyway. So I just need to remove everything here, and then we'll get the new one fitted. Since I'm in here changing the gasket, I'm also going to check the valve clearances. The red spring indicates the exhaust valve. Okay, so the exhaust valve is fully open, meaning that the intake is shut. And I'm going to put the clearances up on the screen so that you can see. I'm going to start with a 5 thou feeler gauge, which is the tightest it should be. That's fine. It's 5 or a 6. Okay, this is 6. Yeah, it's 5. So that is fine. Now for the exhaust. Just need to turn it until the intake opens fully. Okay. I'm going to start with 10. Yep, it's about right. Just try 11. Yep, it's 11. So that is fine. Since this engine hasn't run for years, probably, well, over 10 years, I'd imagine, I'm just going to put a bit of lubrication on those valve stems. I'm going to use my Permatex Ultra Slick Engine Assembly Lube. I do get many people asking me about this. It's really good stuff. It's not quite as easy to apply as the spray lube that you can get, but it's not bad. Try and get it on the valve stems. Right, okay, so now I can put the new gasket on. Just gonna have to remove the old gasket first, give it a bit of a clean up. I'm surprised it leaks because it doesn't really look too bad. But yeah, these gaskets always seem to leak. Doubling them up really helps. I've not ever had one leak where I've put 2 on. That's all clean. So the part number for this gasket is 27803S. It's quite a thick gasket, so I think I should be able to get away with just using the 1 on this engine. When I was doing the 60s engine, that did need 2. It was also much thinner, the surface area. Now that's done, I'm going to put everything back together. We've got the new coil, we've got the plug so it doesn't leak oil, and we've also got the wire, the kill wire, which just runs through there. So yeah, we need to put the alternator back on after a quick clean, the cover for what would have been covering the points, the flywheel, and yeah, then we'll be getting closer to working on the starter motor so that we can then hopefully see if this engine will run. Okay, let's see if this starter motor is any good. Clearly the end cap needs to be replaced, as I mentioned before. I do have a new one of those just here. This is part number 395537, but that might vary depending on which starter motor you've got. So yeah, let's just get this thing stripped down, cleaned up, and yeah, I'll examine it to make sure everything is going to be okay to rebuild. If it seems like it's going to be worth it, I'll put the new end cap on and we'll give it a go. I'll just leave them to soak in there for a bit longer. Still a bit dirty. I'll keep cleaning. one good starter motor. Just going to test this coil. I think I'll replace that. New, very old stock. Well, it's an improvement. That's the new fuel line. Got the fuel tank. And next what I need to do before I refit the carburetor is remove the throttle cable and the battery. This piece of panelling here is going to have to be removed to get the battery out. It's got 3 bolts, which are all very rusty, so it's going to be interesting. But we'll see. The battery is pre-stamped with dates from the 90s, so it's from 90 something. Nobody actually marked the exact year. All I know is the battery is dead. So the solenoid's probably bad too, but I do have some replacements. It would be good to run this from the original tractor's wiring, but yeah, I just don't know how bad the wires are. Surprisingly easy. You can see the original colour. Well, that's flat. It's actually this part which is seized, not the wire. We're almost at a stage where it can be run for the first time. I'm not going to fit the air filter just yet, but I will be doing once I know that it runs. Also, the spark plug lead, the HT lead, is usually very long. You have to shorten it. But I'm not going to do that until I know that it runs, because otherwise I might be wasting a terminal. But I think it will work. Got the new fuel line on, and I'm not going to fit the ground wire to stop it. If the engine does run, I will then work on the tractor's wiring, and then hopefully we'll be able to start and stop it from the key. I'm now ready to put the new oil in, but I thought I'd just show you the old oil. It was surprisingly clean. No metal filings, which is good. No lumps, it's just, as you'd expect, used oil. Well, it works, but it needs adjusting. Before I can drive it anywhere, I'm going to have to change that tyre. Alright, so that's the new wheel on. Next I'm going to do the solenoid, I'm going to replace it, and also the air filter. The way the air filter goes together is by putting the plastic grid in here, and then the air filter goes on top of that, so the new one. What I tend to do, you can oil them. What I tend to do is just give it a spray with penetrating oil. Helps trap the dirt that goes in. And there's this piece. There is this piece of tubing that is to guide the bolt. So that goes into there. There's then this plate of metal that goes on top. And finally, the top cover. Just to make sure everything is square. And there we go, a nice clean new air filter. So that will just sit on there. Got 2 bolts which run through. So let's shorten this HT lead. They give you this length because they don't know exactly what you're going to be fitting it to. It's nice to have the extra length to work with. So what you need, if it's not provided, is part number 493880S, which is a spark plug terminal. They usually are included in the kits, the coil kits, but since I went for an aftermarket, it wasn't in there. So I'm going to probably cut it to about here. There's a new terminal. And we just need to expose the core. Now I've seen a few people do this by trying to crimp the terminal onto the inner wire, just like that. It's not what you do. You actually have to fold that back over onto the insulated part, and then you put the terminal over the top of there. Gives you a decent surface to crimp to. Turn into a how-to video, which I do try and avoid. I don't tend to do how-tos. And then there we go. It's just crimped onto the end. As you can see, we've got the spark plug boot on. Now it just clicks back on. This is the front of the mower. That's the front wheel. The engine pulley block going on to the pulleys for the clutch. That's the transmission clutch. The chassis is totally rotten just here. You can also see that the transmission belt is full of cracks. And moving to the back of the machine, we have the gearbox. That's 3-speed, 3 forward and 1 reverse. The belt does need to be changed, but I don't have a clue what it is. So I'm going to have to take that off after this video and try and figure out exactly what it is. I looked online and I couldn't find anything. No information at all about the Mountfield 11, although Mountfield do tend to go on their deck size as well. So it's probably a Mountfield 11/36 officially, but I couldn't find anything under that number either, so Yeah, if anybody does know the belt size for one of these, I would appreciate it. It would be good to change it. But yeah, without taking it off and measuring it, I'm not going to be able to figure it out. Okay, so I've just been working on the wiring. It's all done. New battery, new solenoid, and it does now start from the key. So I think that's probably as far as I want to go with this now. I don't know if it drives yet, but I can't see any reason why it won't do, since the gearbox seems to shift well, it pushes fine. So we're going to give that a go in a second, give it a proper drive. But yeah, there we go. The Mountfield 1136. Resurrected from the graveyard.